Welcome everyone, we'll be getting started in just a second. I'm just getting set up right now. Testing the volume, sound delay, and decibels on my plosives. Alright, perfect. So today we are attempting to find the easiest, the hardest, and the theoretically best chess opening from a human perspective. Now you may be thinking, well, the best opening is the Spanish, the Ruy Lopez. This is what they always play in the World Championship matches, but I'm here to tell you that this is our opportunity to change that narrative and finally get some interesting chess at the Grandmaster level. My nephew convinced me to stream, and I thought this would be an interesting stream to do. So basically I ran across this article by matstc, who is a researcher. It's an article he published on Lichess, a blog technically, called A Chess Metric, Ease for Humans. And basically what it's doing is, I'll go ahead and read through it, that way we can get a primer on it. But it's taking Leela, and which Leela 0 is a neural net program, so it thinks a little bit more like humans, and it takes the assessment of the difficulty of a position from Leela, and then from that we can actually give it a quantified score, and then I'll be putting those over here on a Google sheet that I made called Chess Openings. I did one test run, and basically the way it works is the higher a score is, the more difficult it is over the next few moves to find the correct moves. Basically, it'll make more sense when we actually go through the paper. And then the lower it is, the more difficult it will be. So in other words, it's sharper from your side. The Smith-Morra was the one I did as an example to test it out, because reasonably speaking, it should be much easier from the white side than the black side, considering you gambited a pawn. And the Smith-Morra Gambit, if you've seen my series on it, is a very system-like opening. There's going to be a lot of, you're just playing the exact same moves basically, right? Queen e2, rook d1. So with that in mind, it seems to hold up logically with my intuition. So I went ahead and built 3 tables. We're going to be looking for the easiest opening, the hardest opening, and then finally the overall best, which will be the delta. This is the difference between playing it as one side and then as the other, which means I actually have this backwards. This seems to be lowest to highest. A to Z. Or highest to lowest, my bad. Google Sheets is kind of silly. Here we go, Z to A. And I'm basically just going to spam putting these through his Google Collab. And if anyone has any recommendations, throw it in the chat and I'll test your favorite opening. I'll be testing some of my favorite openings and just some general, I guess, more general openings like just the Sicilian in general as well. And I'm interested in seeing what this algorithm thinks the easiest and the hardest are. Let's go ahead and read through this article by matstc. He says, I know the engine evaluation, but how easy is it to play this position really? For any given position, chess engines give us an eval and we talk about it as an objective valuation. Clearly that's not completely true because chess is not solved, but somehow the evaluation is superhuman. I love how we get straight to the point here. I know whenever I even lightly criticize engines on my channel, I suggest that they can't do things that are literally impossible, slash, you know, I suggest that they're not like God or something. People get really upset. I get a lot of mad comments whenever I say something negative about the engine, but the truth is, it's just brute force calculation. It's a search algorithm. It's really not how people tend to think about chess. And even though the answers it's giving you are superhuman and can beat any human, it isn't necessarily the best answer from a practical standpoint, right? Theory and the engines are very divorced from each other. I'm sure you've seen that if you've gone over some of my lines and some of my repertoire. And this is an attempt to rectify that. So, he has a funny Ancient Aliens meme for us here. In the top engine line, your opponent gets a mating attack, but there's compensation. Okay, good, my name's not in this. Don't dox me, people. Alright, the problem with the superhuman metric. So, I'm in the midst, he gives a scenario here, I'm in the midst of analyzing a game I played and the engine's telling me I have an advantage in a given position, yet I used up more time than my opponent and ended up blundering. Trusting the superhuman evaluation, I compare the suggested moves with my own, and I try to figure out when my intuition did not guide me towards the best moves. After a lot of comparative analysis, I vaguely understand why the best moves are indeed the best moves, and I hope that my intuition has been prodded enough, that I can do better next move. I think this is how 80% of people on like chess.com and Lichess sort of approach engines. He says, the issue here is that I'm prodding my own intuition with superhuman suggestions. Moves that even master players might not find. I would go further, I would say moves that are literally impossible for humans to find. The two levels of analysis are clashing. It is likely that the moves went over my head and that I learned absolutely nothing for the next time a similar position comes up exactly. It's like in the beginner video I made, I talked all about how openings don't actually matter. It's the plans that come from the openings. If you don't know what your plan is in the middle game, right, like 80% of games, you've probably heard 80% of beginner games are decided at the middle game, in the middle game, so that openings don't matter at all. But that's just not the case, right? That's not the case at all. Openings matter because of the middle game that comes from them. Right, so just memorizing the top engine move is actually less than useless because you're missing the actual idea. So scenario 2 that you would want an engine in, opening repertoire. I'm building an opening repertoire and choosing lines that have a slightly better objective evaluation. When I take it for a spin, I realize I get outplayed in these slightly better positions. Maybe this is coming off as familiar to some of you. The issue here is that the objective evaluation is telling me how easy to play the position is for a superhuman player, a computer, who is using a search algorithm. Of all the positions evaluated as good or equal, some will be fine to play, maybe most will be fine to play. However, some of them will turn out to be really difficult in practical play, and I will now have to go back to the drawing board and figure out which lines I need to reconsider. Some will have to be discarded, and my analysis of them with it. Exactly. People, once again, relying on a search algorithm to decide their opening repertoire, not considering the pawn structure, not considering the plan, and if the plan is something that they would actually want to play every game. Just 1 second. Just double checking some audio stuff real quick. Let me know if my music is too quiet or too loud. This is my first time really live streaming since like 2017, so it's been 9 years. But as you can see, his points are pretty valid here, right? The way that engines work right now is just a brute force search algorithm, completely different than any kind of human intelligence. And that trying to memorize, I guess, the pattern, the interplay between the moves that you think it's going to be and the engine thinks it's going to be isn't actually a useful way to learn, right? And neither is memorizing engine moves. Because, especially in positions, I've mentioned this before in the channel, like IQPs and Gambits, what ends up happening is the engine, because it sort of just wants to go to an endgame, tends to really not value those positions appropriately, right? If there's a Gambit, you're down a pawn. An IQP, you have an obvious endgame weakness. So when a search algorithm is going 20 moves deep, you know, what's 20 moves after the early middle game? Well, if you're an engine, that's usually going to be the early end game. And if you're a Gambit player, or if you have an IQP and you're trying to attack, like in the accelerated Panov attack, it's just not going to evaluate that appropriately, because it's going to look forward, it's going to see the end game, and it's going to evaluate that. Moving on though, scenario 3 that it brings up as an issue, I think is very pertinent. Live broadcast. I'm following a live broadcast of a top level chess game. The commentators and the engine both consider the position equal. One player makes a move and suddenly the evaluation drops sharply. The chat explodes with confusion. How could a GM blunder in an equal position? Really, nothing makes me more angry than the Redditors that do this, which is most Redditors, and I guess just like chess fans on the internet, people who are like 1200 on chess.com. And then there will be some sort of tactic that the engine sees, which is extremely difficult for a person to see. And no one has a 100% batting average for tactics. Some are quite literally impossible for humans to spot. He says, okay, GMs blunder too sometimes, but more to the point, the engine saw a balanced position that may have been very difficult to play. In practice, it can be near impossible to hold on to equality. In this scenario, perhaps the commentators were swayed exactly by the engine eval and did not appreciate the minefield on the board. This happens all the time. Just because an endgame is equal doesn't mean it's equal, right? There can be one side fighting for a win. In fact, this is most games, one side is fighting for a win. It's very rare that an endgame is like actually equal. Usually there's some kind of imbalance. One player is fighting for a win and there's complications to be had. I mean, you've played endgames. And you've seen chess commentary, and you know that they over-rely on engines, and you end up with these weird moments where there'll be commentators who are grandmasters who, instead of using their own, calculation abilities to evaluate a position and talk about the difficulties of it, just, oh, this endgame's a draw, and doubly so for Twitch chat, etc., etc. But moving on. This is his proposed solution. How the ease metric works. It is not straightforward to figure out how easy to play certain moves are. But as a proxy, I'm using the policy value that Lichess 0 outputs for any given position before moving on to calculation. The policy value is the output of a neural network that could be interpreted as reflecting the intuition of a very strong player. As I'll show you later in the Google Collab, he uses a 5-ply model for this. For many players, this may be strong, but I think this is a good start. It's also beneficial to be exposed to stronger intuition than ours in order to learn from it. As long as the policy value does not rely on millions of calculations, I'm happy to use it as a proxy for how natural a move can look to humans. I've not done this, but it would be interesting to use a chess engine that actively tries to be more human-like. Obviously, yeah, this is very early. This is a very early stab at this kind of algorithm. There are definitely some implicit biases. For example, it's definitely going to overvalue Gambits because it doesn't really take material into account as much as like Stockfish would, because it's more concerned with difficulty. And we can look at the algorithm we're going to be using down here, where PI is the probability, the policy value percentage from 0 to 100 for a candidate move. QI is the final eval from certain loss to certain win for the candidate move. Qmax is the highest Q value across all candidate moves, so the highest evaluation. Alpha controls the bias to give more resolution. This is nerd talk, you don't have to worry about all this, but I'm still going to read it. Give more resolution at the top end, here is set to 1/3, and then beta is going to control the emphasis on high probability moves. Here is set to 1.5, and I do use his default weights for everything. So yeah, if it's close to 1, it's going to be easy, and if it's close to 0, it's going to be impossible. So 1, or like 0.9 repeating, would be the hardest possible, or I'm sorry, would be the easiest possible position, and 0, or 0.01, would be the hardest possible chess position from whoever's player's turn it is to move, right? So if it's a Smith-Morra Gambit, white to move, as we saw in my example back here, right? White to move is going to be 0.789 because it's fairly easy to play from there. You generally always go for the same plans. It can't get too complicated or sharp from your perspective. But from the black side in the same position is 0.52 or 0.53, right? So that's like sort of a medium difficult position. All right. He goes through a quick walkthrough, and the part that I want to go through in this are some of the example positions before we get started. And if you want your particular opening looked at, throw it up in chat. I have it open on my phone, so if I see any opening suggestions come up in chat, I'll definitely prioritize those. It'll take us maybe like 5-6 minutes to do each opening. I'll show you how it works. And in the meantime, we can do all kinds of stuff. We can talk about the opening, or more reasonably, I guess, we could guess at the difficulty factor. I'm pretty curious about that. So without further ado, the initial position is at an ease of 0.83, an easy puzzle, 0.74, intermediate puzzle, 0.48, hard puzzle, 0.53. The Italian game, it's giving a 0.81, very simple. The Queen's Gambit declined. I believe this is with black to move. Hold on. Okay. Ignore me. 0.79. A trivial rook in game, 0.92. This, literally everything here is winning, so this is about as simple as it gets. The author says, the ease values reflect my own intuition. I mostly agree. Although you may have noticed the ease for the hard puzzle is easier than the intermediate. This could be because the first move of the hard puzzle is fairly easy to find. And this is another place I want to sort of talk about a bias before I move on, where I've noticed the first move, if the first move is obvious, it is going to make that a little bit higher. It's going to overvalue that a little bit. And a good example for that is the Smith-Morra. So I did this before recapturing with knight to c3. So the first move is very obvious. This is weighted a little weird. So that'll also be a bias that we need to keep in mind. Maybe there's a good way to account for that. But for now, I really like this guy's methodology. It definitely has its issues, but I think it's very promising, and I think it's going to allow us to find the easiest opening, the hardest opening, and then the overall best opening using the delta between what is easiest for us and hardest for our opponent. And I think it should be really interesting. So he invites us to try out his method, and we are absolutely going to be doing that, first by reconnecting my runtime. If I have to download Leela again, I'm going to scream. That takes like 10 minutes. Oh no. Oh no. Surely. Well, I'm going to start downloading things. In the meantime, definitely drop the openings in chat that you'd like to see. I'm just going to refresh this, and then we can get cooking. Okay, thank goodness, we're good, we're good, we're good. All right. So I'm going to be using, if you're following along, the various positions in their 5-play ease value. This is the one that goes just a little bit deeper. But there's also various positions in their ease value. Get rid of all of this. And the way I'm going to be doing this is by going to the Lichess analysis board. Let me make sure it is in frame. Okay, everything looks good. Yeah, okay, yeah, everything looks good here. I'm going to be going to the Lichess analysis board. Let me refresh. Inputting a position. So for example, let's start with the Danish Gambit. And then c3 would be the starting position of the Danish Gambit. They recapture, and then we'll pull this position right here. There will be a little bit of weirdness for where I decide to pull the position when it's white to move. And again, this one is going to have some bias because the first move is fairly obvious, but also not, right? Because there's the 2-pawn sacrifice. So we'll see how this one ends up. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the FEN from this position with white to move. I'm going to plug it into his code here. We'll just say opening. Alright, we got a name error. Let's refresh it. Make sure that everything ran fine. Okay, so we got Python installed, but the ease framework isn't right. Change, unsuccessful. No big deal at all. Cecilia Nydorf, Alekhine Defense, right on. Appreciate the suggestions. I'll go and get Alekhines up actually. So I'll start with the white side. And I'll do white to move from here. But yeah, this is really exciting stuff. This is frontier research. And maybe, just maybe, we can use it to make the chess world a little less boring. Okay, it's not finding LCO. I'm just gonna have to download LCO again. How miserable. Alright, I'm going to reinstall Leela really quick. I'm going to take a short intermission while that goes. Last time I did this, it took like 7 minutes, so I'm going to go grab a Diet Coke. Be right back. Did I mute it? Alright, I'm back. We're still loading, so I'll find something else to do. Maybe I will play moves in my daily game. How about that? Alright, hopefully you guys can see that okay. If you're not a member of the Chess Gambits Explain team, make sure to join up. I really want to hit 100 members, that way we can start doing maybe some small tournaments on the weekend, or like an arena tournament on the weekend. I think that could be pretty fun. Also, make sure to challenge me. If you just hit this, you can send me a challenge. You can send me a challenge link, and we can play a simul. The rules are right here to challenge me with. But in the meantime, let's see if anyone's moved. All right, we got 4 games to move in. I'm not gonna talk about my rating. I keep DCing. All right. I don't hate my moves here. I'm trying to make this not look like crap on the screen. So I'm pretty worried about this pawn, honestly. That's my main concern here. And he is more than in front of my passer. If I push, he tries to fork. Doesn't work. So maybe I do that. Obviously I can't attack his pawn. He just, he just pushes it, yeah? Okay, Leela's still going. About 3 minutes left, probably. Alright. Be honest, this isn't looking great for me. Definitely not time to play for tricks yet, though. Yeah, I'm thinking either e5 or a5. Because if e5 and then he attacks it with his rook, I can just come over, get my rook behind the pass pawn, but he still has this nice passer over here and my king sucks. But I really just need to get this fella off this rank. Got a dang pig on the 7th, so... And ideally I could snipe this pawn, I just don't have time. I just don't have time. I guess something else I should look at is the pawn sack. Break up the structure, isolate his passer. After all, my entire position is protected. Let's see. Nah. I think eventually it's a good idea, though. Yeah, I'll hit him with e5. Let's do the next game. Oh, nice. LCO is downloaded. I'm going to go ahead and grab the weights. In the meantime, we'll move on to the next game against Leveler Soap. Make sure to join the team if you want to play me. That's a good move, yeah. H5, H4 seems tempting. Attacking the queen seems tempting. Not quite trapped though. It has to be H4, H5, right? Has to be. Yeah, I'm locking it in. What's next? An anonymous source. We have a Smithmore declined. That's just theory. That's just theory right there. Gonna have to make a video on that soon. Alright, let me switch my view back over really quick. We are ready to start analyzing. Execution. Completed notification. I don't know if you guys can see that. Alright, let me make sure everything is still in frame on my end. Suggest openings. Looks like it's a little out of frame. Let me fix that. Cool. Alright, that should do it. Alright, so the first opening we'll be going over. Let me hide all this code. Will be a 5-ply of the Alekhine defense as masked for. Let's check this one out. If I had a guess, I would say this one is probably going to be... The Alekhine's defense itself can go in so many different directions. I think it might be a little biased and call it a little simpler than it is, but my guts tells me the Alekhine defense may be like 0.7? 0.67 is going to be my guess. Okay, paste this, and then quote, comma, and now run it, right? Name error, trace back. This is very bizarre. I used this 2 seconds ago. Glad AI is not helpful anywhere. That's good. Run the cell title, define the ease framework. First to initialize, definitely did. But let's do it. Okay. No module named chess. Did the author break this in the 5 seconds since I originally ran it? Sort of fascinating. Okay, now we have chess. Define the ease framework. File not found. We are so close to getting this running. Alright, I'm just gonna refresh it. Alright, see what output we have. File not found for GPU. Weird. Okay, so I need to ensure that a GPU is available, make sure that my version of Leela 0 is good, then get all the weights downloaded again, and then we can try to run the algorithm again. In the meantime, if you want to see an opening analyzed, make sure to drop it in the chat. I'll make sure to put out a long form video just summarizing all of my findings from this. But I figured the process itself probably not too interesting, so I'll just stream it, and then I think depending on the type of person you are, either this will be the most interesting thing in the world to you or the least interesting thing in the world. But I'm definitely in the latter camp. I definitely find this to be very interesting, and I think this is a great project. It looks like we finally have a GPU available, very nice. Next, we're going to define ease framework, no file directory, content, LC, build, release. So it's the same error. I guess we'll just have to install Leela again. Yeah, I think the way this works, it runs like Python on some sort of like virtual like VM Linux. It's very odd. But the cool part about Google Collab and Google Research in general is that they just let you use GPUs, which is pretty dope in a world where, you know, AI exists and any decent GPU is going to run you like 500, 600 bucks. Looks like all is going well so far though. It is currently compiling C++. I already have the weights downloaded, I already have Python chess installed. Next, I just need to define the ease framework, which is going to give us our Q values from this formula. And the ease framework is going to give us a score between 0 and 1, where 1 is the least difficult opening and 0 is the most difficult opening. 1 is going to be easy, 0 is going to be hard. I'm literally going to write that so people don't ask. 1 equals easy, 0 equals hard. So far, I've only run one through. It was the Smith-Morra Gambit, and had a delta of 0.26, meaning it's significantly easier to play from the white side. My goals in this are going to be finding the easiest, the hardest, and the overall best opening in terms of how much easier it is to play for you than it is for your opponent. Okay, this could take another 5 minutes, so I'm just gonna like grab a game, unless anyone else can think of something entertaining to do. Let me go Zen mode so you guys can't dox me. Hopefully this is in frame. I'll just play the 26 repertoire while we wait. Accelerated pan off. Doing pre-move. I am not in frame. Let me fix that. Very funny. And like I mentioned in the video, we just want to develop our knight with tempo, and then basically just play the Smith more at Gambit. So I'm starting with d4. Knight f3. Bishop c4 coming next. Leela is still downloading. Get comfy. Ah, my opponent still hasn't gone. Yeah, the accelerated panel was pretty good. People just get lost like immediately. It's a reasonable move though. Going castle. We'll go queen e2. Maybe I make a stonewall knight here, we'll see. H6. Well, that definitely makes me want to play bishop f4 before playing rook d1. Because I really want my bishop on this diagonal. It wouldn't be terrible on e3, but... I like that his queenside's so weak. Ah man, 8 minutes in. Brutal. A6 makes sense, I guess. Rook d1, definitely. Line it up with the queen, get ready to open things up. Other rook wants to be on the c-file, just like in the Morom. If I decide to play for the Stonewall, which I think I won't, but if I do, I'll bring my bishop back to g3 first. Maybe, maybe e3, but the plan's looking a little less likely. Only 17 more. Man, Leela has been such a pain to install. It's like my third time doing it. But hopefully this does it. Looks like everything's linking fine, so... Successful execution, alright. Linking target engine test. Let's try this again. So next I'll download the weights again. Literally going to reinstall every little part. Finally. Queen b6. Huh. No, I really want a knight there. I mean, I gotta. Don't hate the idea of just putting a bishop on the c-file either. Should always look at knight moves that attack a queen, but I don't see anything too promising here. Look at pushing real quick. Looks good to me. They push themselves, they lose a pawn. If they capture, a couple options, but this is hanging. And I can certainly fork the two as well. Yeah, I'll push. It's a move you always want to look out for in these. Gotta use your kamikaze pawn. Alright. Back to this. Let's see if we're actually operational now. Okay, let's define the EAS framework. This is where it keeps going wrong. First, let me install Python chess, because maybe this was the issue. Requirement already satisfied. Alright, we're all good here. Okay, hopefully we get lucky this time. There we go. Alright, it's finally properly defined. Let's go, Leela 0. Let's go. Alright, various positions and their ease value. I'm just going to run this as is, just in case it causes issues with this one if I don't. So that'll take a minute. Not too used to Google Collab. But if there's some kind of like repository I need there, I'd rather have it. Yeah, sure enough. tempted to take with rook. The idea is if I capture back with the knight, I'm forking, obviously. He can come back and defend it, but not twice, you know? But I don't hate my rook on d1 either. And I do kind of hate my bishop. Should do it. Alright, let's check back up. Cannot read weights from... Interesting. Well, this is the default code he left in. It's pretty funny that there's errors in it. It's like we are 2.5 minutes in. Almost ready to test some openings. Meantime, though, we are still waiting on our opponent. Don't even remember what opening this was. Oh yeah, it's an accelerated pan off. Alright, our opponent is moved. Well, the fork's pretty tempting. Could also be some interesting tactics that top up after taking, and then forking, you know what I mean? But definitely not right here. I think forking these fellas is going to be the way to do it. But I'm going to keep analyzing. Yeah, I'll go and fork. Dark Bishop's gonna be a really good piece for him. Him or her. Alright, 4 minutes in. Where are we at? Oh, I see. Yeah, we'll want to retry this. Broken pipe, yeah. Okay, I'm just gonna rewrite it then. That's sort of weird. Take these out. One initial position here. Boom. And broken pipe error. I'll just run this maybe. Okay. My turn. Ah, shame it's not defended. I have a pretty cool move here if I want to play it. I think I probably will. The idea, of course, if he takes, I can capture with check, grab his queen. Let's check up on the robot. I might literally just have to do this stream a different day. This is crazy. I swear that like 5 seconds before I started, I ran it perfectly okay. Every single line worked perfectly normal. Is it because Gemini's like messing with the code? I honestly have no idea. I know nothing about Google Collab. If I can at least run this, then I'm good. Though, I don't know why it's saying it ran. Yeah, unfortunate. I think we'll just have to run this one back. I have no idea what could be going wrong. It's like the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. Maybe even like switching accounts is the way to do it here. It's like a run all button on these, right? I'm just gonna hit that. Be done with it. Hopefully that's enough. That opponent. Oh, wait, no, they did move. Huh. Really? Okay. What? Were they that worried about the fork? I'm pretty confused by that. Am I missing something? And there's just a piece in it. You can't fork me. I guess it can't even really develop a tempo. I can just grab it. What a perplexing move. This is unlike my main account, by the way. This is a high-rated opponent. Okay. It just seems way better for me, does it not? It's the idea that if I take... Did I miss a tactic? Hold on. Take. Yeah, I just completely blundered, but it's all good. Probably double the fellas up. Currently have the entire Google Collab queued. We can't get it running this time. Ooh, interesting. I can take that with my... Ah, lame. Never mind. But yeah, I mean, I'll take the pawn with the check, I suppose. Better than this, isn't it? We're 3 minutes into LCO. Yeah, this will be my last attempt. If I can't get it working this time, I'll just do another stream. Pretty frustrating. Before I started stream, I mean, it was like the easiest thing ever to run. I didn't change a single line of code. But that's the way these things go sometimes. Hopefully we can get it running this time, and we can discover the easiest opening in all of chess. So far, we already have confirmed that the Smith-Morra is pretty good. It's pretty good, and significantly easier for white than it is for black. Yeah, we'll grab that with check. We will grab that with check. I do not see why not. Moves his king. Immediately, I'm looking at queen sacks. Is there any way to deflect either of these pieces? There's a couple ideas here I really don't hate. Don't hate just plugging my queen on g6 and just pinning the guy. Seems easy to deal with though. I do mostly want to take advantage of this lack of development from my opponent though. The problem is, as soon as I play rook to d8, they can just develop, and then their rook's defended. So it need to be attacked twice. Yeah, I just gotta bring the knight in. Gotta bring that knight in without hanging mate. Hold on, rook here, he takes... Never mind, that sucks. I don't hate the idea of just getting my rook to a dark square. Maybe that would do it. For the love of God, Leela Zero, you better work this time. What? What a character. He needed to stay on this vertical, and now I can move my knight. I can even play knight here, because mate might do that. It's pretty cool. I also want to threaten this, though, so I guess I can't play the cooler version. Or can I? Hold on. Nah, I should really play here. I am so close to so many checkmates. My goodness. I better go for 95. Lame. Still can't do this with tempo. Of course, if he moves his knight, I can be a real jerk. Okay, LCO is taking 10 minutes this time. Now we're talking. Maybe that's a good sign, though. Maybe I didn't download properly before, and just tap into on my first run. There it goes. Cool, cool. Well, with a little luck, we'll get it running this time, and then the stream won't be a complete bust. I mean, this game feels sort of over, right? What in the world? I mean, probably start with the queen check. What's up, ABB Real? Are you fake? What's up, brother? So, I'm trying to do, long story short, there's this guy, he has a Google Collab, he's doing research, and I'm going to use his code to determine the statistically easiest and hardest openings based on a neural net Leela that's been fine-tuned to sort of think like a human. But the code's being difficult, so I'm taking a break to play some chess. I'll probably just deliver the queen check here. You figure where I'm going to move my knight, though. I kind of don't hate the idea of pushing my f-pawn. It's a little crazy, but... yeah, why complicate things? Sounds pretty nifty. Yeah, it's really cool research. It's really cool research. I'm looking forward to messing around with it some more. And then once I get my answers, I'll probably make like a long form video on it. Should be pretty good content. Yeah, I'll still over the check. And probably like threaten the sacrifice. Where are we at? Ease values. Error cannot read weights. Great. pb.gz. Alright. Yeah, sure enough. Also could try to get a knight here, I guess. No need. Go for the throat. He can threaten mate. Yeah, we're chilling. Well, we'll let this one go. Executing 0 seconds. It's already failed. Oh boy. Yeah, unfortunately, I think I'll just have to start this one back up. I don't know what happened in the 5 seconds from me doing this one that made the code base break, but I'll do some fine-tuning after this game. Start the stream again if I can't get this working. Go and pause this for now. Keyword interrupt, trace back, yeah. Yeah. Living the 1c5 Banco. Heck yeah. One C5 Banco. I've been thinking about that for the past like 5 seconds. I can't even make heads or tails of that. What do you mean? the 1C5 Banco? Usually like fianchetto in that, right? And 1C5. Oh, like 1 dot 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 C5 Banco. Like they play D4 and then you play C5. Yeah. Yes, the way to do it. I swear it is. I don't know why I thought it's bishop to c5. Okay, a couple options here. Probably the simplest is... You can't take my rook, right? You can't checkmate me. Yeah, I'll just swing this fella in. Don't see why not. D4, C5, D5, knight C6. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think it's a great move order. I really don't know why it isn't played more at the higher... Well, I know why it isn't played more at the higher level. People are allergic to the Benoni. Because it's considered a little bit risky, but... Yeah, I think at the amateur level, the old Benoni, the Benoni Gambit move order is so good. I mean, I've been playing it for forever. It's basically what I exclusively play now. What's my favorite versus D4? Yeah, definitely the Banco Gambit, just C5. But I've also been known to do a little bit of... I'll do some Banco Gambit. In the normal Benoni, I'll do the Rodmica system. But besides that, I'll play the Dutch a lot. I'm a big fan of the Dutch, especially for beginners. I think it's a really simple opening, and it's a really good way to just like learn how to attack, especially when they fianchetto. King's Indian is a classic, but I think the King's Indian is just kind of overstudied. Blue 2200 is really nice. Yeah, exactly. For us mortals, it's quite good. What's that? There's another gambit I'm trying to think of that's really fun against D4. I like don't know any theory, but how's it played again? I'm literally gonna Google Gambits versus D4 because I'm having a brain fart on this one. Black Gambits against D4. Banco Gambit, Albert. Here we go, Budapest. That's the one, the Budapest Gambit. Yeah, that one's a lot of fun too. I think I might make a video on it, but I would need to study it more. I just don't know it well enough. It's your rating, it's cut off. Rusty as all get out, so I'm actually below 2K right now, which is a bit sad, but that's a cool mate, isn't it? And then mate. But my current rating on this account, don't dox me, is 1926. Not the strongest player. It's sadly below 2000 because I'm a bit rusty, but... Yeah, usually I'm floating somewhere around 2K. Budapest pretty decent. Yeah, it's really fun. I don't know if I would ever play it in a classical tournament, but I think you could get away with it. I think you definitely could get away with it. Alright, I'm going to go and end stream here and fix all this broken code. and then hopefully we can come back and actually actualize this concept. But anyone who stuck around, hope you enjoyed the game. I'm gonna try this again tomorrow. I'm gonna try this again tomorrow if I can find the time. You have a good night, y'all.